Hello guys, how you doing? Another video from Oscar Cooper. I hope you're all well, and we're going to be looking at the PlayStation Pro, some of the games that offer support for it, and I'm in a good position for this one because I owned an original PlayStation 4 for about 2 years, and I've just got the Pro and a 4K television, and I'm going to go through some of the stuff that I've really noticed has changed for me. A lot of the upgrades and support, they're not really hugely noticeable, so I've picked out 20. I want to cover absolutely quickly because I'm not actually going to go over a lot of the PSN games. This has got more scores, higher resolution, a really cool addition. Okay, so let's kick it off with Battlefield 1, one of the bigger sort of first-person online shooters in the form of World War I. What a cracking game, and a very good-looking game prior to any pro support offered. What we do have here on the resolution front is 2880 by 1620, and we've got some dynamic resolution scaling to keep it at 60 frames per second on a frame rate level. We've got higher resolution textures in here as well, and we've got something called tessellation. Google that one if you prefer, and we've also got some better draw distance. A stunning game in its own right, but loads better on the Pro. Really noticed it actually when I booted it up first time. Obviously I played this game a lot on the original PlayStation 4. I see some big differences here. Yeah, Helldivers is just going to get a quick mention here. I know I wasn't talking about PlayStation Network games, but I love this game so much, and it is available as a physical copy. What we've got is 4K, the developers tell us. It is checkerboard, but it now does run at 60 frames per second and offers HDR, so some big improvements for this one. Wobbling in early doors, it's Mass Effect. We do have some support here, and I don't mind the game.
Target down. Good work.
Okay, so numbers-wise, it's not doing too badly. We've got 3,200 by 1800, and we've got some checkerboard, and of course it's HDR, which might explain some of the strange coloration you're getting through. I think Mass Effect has got some of the best sci-fi vistas out there, and of course it's a cool open world game that really does allow some amazing roleplay character development. I think it's not going to change your life if you have a Pro and you haven't bought this yet, but if you own it and you get the Pro in, it's well worth a look. So next up we got Ark Survival Evolved, a great game actually, huge open world sort of crafting building game with some stunning visuals. Again, this had a patch drop for it. Wasn't looking that great actually on the PlayStation original, but things are stunning now. We have this running on the Pro, some great god rays and lighting, and the game actually comes in a split screen format as well, and the extra power of the PlayStation Pro really does support some of those resolution drops that we see when the screen splits. Again, a stunning game, well worth the look if you haven't had a look at it prior to getting a Pro. It's really beautiful now that it's got that power. Yes, it's good old Dark Souls 3 from. I love this game, played a lot of it on my original PlayStation 4, and we're now looking at an unlocked frame rate up to 60 frames per second, and we're looking at 1920 by 1080 HP. Really cool addition to have this extra power behind this game. I remember the Forest being a little bit janky with frame rates, etc. It totally copes with it now. This game's got a lot of action in it, it's got a lot of moving parts, shall we say, when things start kicking off, and it's really good to have that sort of frame rate adjust to what's on the screen at the same time. You know, it will dip if there's a lot going on, but then it will shoot back up again if you're walking through a scenic area. But it looks smoother, it plays so much smoother. It's really lavish and well done, this edition, and it's a great excuse to go back to a really awesome game. Okay, now it's time for The Last Guardian from Team Ico. You must know these guys. They've been in the Paris Game Show with the remake of Shadow of the Colossus for the PlayStation 4. Holy crap, I'm excited about that. But let's talk about this quickly with some big numbers here. On the resolution front, 3,380 and by 1900, and we've got HDR and a choice of 4K or 1080p with super sampling. So this is a heavy hitter. This game was built around the Pro's power, so it can cater for it. This wasn't just a patch or an add-on. This game came out of the gate with Pro support. Really beautiful, an amazing game really in its own right, well worth going back to. Okay, so it's Overwatch from Blizzard. Everybody loves Overwatch. We do have some Pro support for this game, surprisingly enough. We are still at 1080 HP, but we're boasting 60 frames per second here, and the UI, funnily enough, is actually in 4K. You might notice that some of the writing and the symbols, etc., are really, really detailed. We've got some improved texture filtering here and an improved depth of field. That's really welcome for an online first-person shooter. And this game was colourful enough as it was, but it's so cool to have that little bit of the kick up the arse with some of the depth of field and visuals here. Awesome addition to a brilliant game. Yes, Dirt 4 does have some pro support. We're looking at 1920 by 1080, but we do have 60 frames per second, and we have some very high quality lighting here, improved reflections and textures and shadows. So that's a really good addition. They're crisper, the lines are a lot cleaner, and this really comes through in the replays as well. This game is amazing. It's one of the best rally games available on the console at the moment, and it can go toe to toe with any other racing simulator in my eyes. It's just so great to have it get that little bit better with the PlayStation Pro. Okay, let's do Fallout 4, and we have some great PlayStation 4 Pro support here. Resolution wise, we're looking at 2560 by 1440. We've got high resolution textures here. We've got better lighting. I noticed this straight away from the rays of light, the way they came through things, the way they were more crisper. We've got an extended draw distance, which is really important, and we've got sort of more foliage, more objects. The things are more populated. The NPCs have got more detail, etc. This is cool.
Blast time.
Okay, it's time for good old No Man's Sky. This has had a tough life, this game, and but the changes have been welcome. You might know about the new patches that dropped in over the last couple of months. Really good. Everyone who has a PlayStation got to see some massive changes with this game. But we're now 3200 at 1800 native. We've got high resolution on textures. We've got a better frame rate between 50 and 60 frames per second. We've got better lighting. We've got better shadows. We're HDR now as well. So some huge changes. And you know what? If you've never gone near this game and you heard all the bad press about it, and you're like, I'm going to avoid it, don't, because they changed everything almost. I mean, it's never going to look like that goddamn demo we saw at E3, but it's really been rescued very well. And these additional changes for the Pro, I love the idea. Bear in mind, this HDR footage does not carry over on the Share Factory very well. These colors, they just pop in crazy, but it's really worth a look. I need to mention that. So yes, the amazing Doom does have some PlayStation Pro support, and it comes in the form of frame rates. You've got a boost mode on the machine that allows the frame rate to stay a lot higher than it does on the base rate system. Now this is really amazing because this game is heavily on the visuals and heavy on the action. There's so much going on screen that it's really cool to know that you are pushing out more frame rates than the standard base PlayStation. What a stunning game, and again, really worth going back to. What was that, mate? Sorry? I can't make a video without putting the bloody Witcher in it. Well, you got a fair point. But this game does have PlayStation Pro support, and it's extremely welcome because it is one of the most beautiful PlayStation games available. And the differences in the two versions are minor. I've been watching a lot of Digital Foundry. Those guys sort of break it down. You see some very small additions to foliage and distance. You see some frame rate boosts when things get busy. It's just nice to have that sort of sheen of quality over a game that is impeccable. Visually, it is absolutely head and shoulders above everything. But now we've got that little bit extra with the PlayStation Pro. So Final Fantasy 15 dropped a patch in, I think it was June, July, and we've now got two choices of modes within the game. There's a 30 frame per second 4K mode, which is 3200 at 1800, and then we've got this sort of 1080p, but it's 40 to 60 frames per second, so it's really nice to have that choice. As standard, the game's coming with high quality lighting and shadows and texture filtering. There's LODs and draw distance improvements here, and of course there's some checkerboarding, but it's great to have some additions to a game that was really pretty actually on the PlayStation 4. Totally impressed me, and now I'm even more impressed with having those options on the Pro. Yes, it's NieR Automata, or Automata as I like to call it, and it could actually get one of my Game of the Year nominations. No, it's definitely going to get a nomination. It could win Game of the Year, to be honest with you. And awesomely enough, we've got some pro support here. Better shadows as per, better lighting, better texture filtering, and we've also got some object motion blur, which is weird, but it works, and it's noticeable. 1080p, but of course, you know, this game doesn't really need to sing and dance about its graphics. It's just great to have a plus point on such a stunning game. Again, one of the best games of the year, and what a reason to get it working on your Pro. So yeah, let's do Diablo 3, and I might have forgotten to mention that this is actually a ranked list of games that impress me with their changes and additions with buying a Pro, and Diablo 3 is really up there because this is running in actual 4K. What it does is it seamlessly switches between resolution to lock it at 60 frames per second at all times. You've got ambient occlusion here, you've got lighting bloom that's different, you've got 4K text, and you've got dramatic resolution scaling. There's just so much stuff going on. Look at the activity on screen here. This game does not drop a frame, and it's 4-player couch co-op as well. You know how I feel about couch co-op. This has really impressed me. If you don't own this and you've got a Pro and you're thinking, let's see some big changes, wow, Diablo 3, so impressive. Sticking to impressive stuff, and one of the other reasons I got my Pro was to see some improvement on the VR resolution, because that was just a real sort of headache for me. We have seen it, and I'm looking at it now, and it's in the form of Resident Evil 7, and we're looking at 2240 by 1260 resolution, but also you're looking at some super sampling here and HDR. So what it does is it sort of checkerboards when you've got the headset on to sort of help cope and improve things visually. It's impressive and it's noticeable, and I'm glad that I actually now own a VR and a Pro. In conjunction, those two things are really powerful and awesome, and Resident Evil 7 is a great way to sample this.
Well, that hit the spot.
Okay, we're getting to the latter part of the list and things are hotting up. It's Infamous Second Son, a very much older game, but had some amazing pro support put through. It's got 3200 by 1800 resolution. We do have checkerboard, we do have HDR, we have some graphic choices here on frame rate versus higher resolution, as you've often seen. But I saw a developer interview about this update, and just the particle physics on the lighting and how these small little things are going on in regards to the neon stuff and his powers. I mean, it's pretty amazing. This game is really cheap as well. It may even been free actually on one of the months, but it's the overhaul that I'm impressed with. Infamous Second Son. Okay, now it's time for NieR, and people say I've got an unhealthy obsession with this game. It seems to appear on most of my lists, but you know, let's not worry about that. We've got some choices here. We've got action mode and movie mode. We have the movie mode actually having a higher resolution and a lower frame rate, and we have the action mode taking care of the frames per second and keeping it nice and high, keeping it nice and smooth. Personally, with an action game like this, when there's a lot going on, I prefer a nice smooth game. I go for that action mode. I'm not too concerned about high resolution. I just don't want any jankiness. I don't want any frame rate skips. I want things to be nice and smooth and great, and we get that here with NieR. It's a very strong game, and it's got an awesome art style, and the Pro really does cater for some of the amazing action scenes that this game has to offer. And the fact that we have a choice is just a cherry on top of the cake. NieR is stunning, and it should be really high on this list. Best looking driving game on the PlayStation 4, and a Pro masterpiece really. We've got full 4K here, we've got anti-aliasing, we've got MSSAA coming out of the ears. It's just it's a thing of beauty, this game. The replays are just hands down one of the best things I've seen on the system. This game is just a thing of beauty, absolutely amazing. So in at number 3, it's Tomb Raider, of course, and Uncharted should be here as well, but I just don't feel that it was a huge gap in visuals that this game offered. This game just blew me out of the water. On the 4K option, as you can see here, the visuals between the base system and this game are massive. It's just gobsmacking how good this game looks on a Pro, and I spent a lot of time with it on my standard PlayStation, but when I clapped eyes on this with all of the stuff going, I was amazed. It really is very strong. It's number 3 on the list for a damn good reason. It's a blinding game by any stretch, but it's just, I mean, just look at it. It really they did such a good job on making this game pro-centric. It's amazing. I cannot stress that enough, and really does deserve top spot, number 3. Yeah, number two's Wipeout, and it's almost like this game was made for the Pro. I brought it before getting my Pro and was just so angry that I didn't own the machine, and now I have it, and I put it on, and it's like a new world. It really is. We're running some amazing stats with this game. 4K, 60 frames per second. It works so well in split screen as well. Doesn't drop a beat. It's beautiful. It's so crisp. Everything, the blacks and the way it flows and the way it looks, and those frame rates, those beautiful 60 frames per second that never leave you, not once. We've got additional motion blur in here. We've got all kinds of colors popping out. Things are just stronger. Everything works so well, and I thoroughly recommend, if you buy a Pro and you buy one game, you should definitely get this. What do you mean you knew it was going to be number one? I think she's called Aloy. No, I do not have a thing for gingers. We get back to the list, please? Okay guys, it's Horizon Zero Dawn. You knew it was going to be, and wow, we've got some really cool options here. Again, we have the visual versus frame rate option, but we're working with 4K checkerboard here, and we're locked at 30 frames per second, but we've got super sampling, upgraded effects, HDR. That's why these visuals look so strange through the SharePlay platform. But just, this was the one game that I uploaded as soon as I got my Pro. I spent so much time with it, as I keep saying, with my original PlayStation 4, and man, I fell off my chair with how great it was. I love this game to bits, and it's so great seeing it improved. Not just improved, but massively improved.